So in this episode, I'm going to do something a little bit different than I do in the episodes normally. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go unscripted. We're going to try unscripted for a little while and see if I can do that. It's a little difficult. I might go on little tangents here and there, but hopefully that's okay. So what I want to do in this episode is talk about... So in the previous 9 episodes, I interviewed a different person every single episode. They ranged in several different creative industries, and I asked some similar questions and some different questions to really. One of the big goals of mine was to really get to the bottom of how they interact with their clients and how they provide value to them and how they make sure of it. And while I did have a few technical problems while recording all of these because, so most of the time, the first 20-something episodes here is just one camera. So I went to 2 cameras and had some audio problems with the first few. It's too bad, but, we still had a lot of really good content, a lot of really good interviews in those first couple. So if you haven't watched those, please try to bear through the bad audio. They get fixed at about the 4th episode on. So anyway, so the first thing that I noticed coming up a lot is people talking about the conversations that they have with their clients. The first thing is they talk about, there's several people talked about this, but specifically Dylan Mangus, he talked about this idea of talking to an individual rather than a whole committee of people and forming a relationship with that one person to really understand some of the difficulties that their company is having. And Dylan's role in that, and as well as every other creative, is to solve that problem with whatever their creative ability is. Now, I think this is a big thing that most people don't really think about kind of at the start of their careers, where they go into their first jobs and they are just so excited that they're able to make things for a living that they don't really consider the problems that they're actually solving. They don't really consider the actual value of the things that they're doing for people. And I think that's something that's really important for people to kind of take away from these conversations that I had with people. I also think it's really interesting how a business can have one problem, but there could be several different solutions to that problem. And that ranges in creative industries too. So for instance, let's say their problem is that they're not getting enough awareness with their brand, and the solution for that, maybe it's animation, maybe it's design, maybe it's an event, maybe it's social media. There's all of those things can help you get more awareness. So I think it's really interesting that if you truly understand the problem, you also understand that there are many different solutions to that problem. Something else that came up quite often was this idea of story. Most notably from Thad. He talked a lot about story and its importance basically in communicating with a person's audience. And I that's one of the biggest things from all the conversations that really stuck with me is that's all creatives are essentially doing, is helping tell a story. Again, that's another one of those things where different creative industries were telling a story in different ways. It could be the same story, it could be a different story, but one of the most important things I think a business can do is tell an actual story, as opposed to just having a commercial that's like, hey, come buy this new thing we have, it's on sale, it's a deal. Sort of like a car dealership, stuff like that. One of the beliefs that I have is that if you tell a story to people, you give them the ability to actually connect with your brand. And if your product was made to truly help that person, then there is a natural connection made right there. And I think that's one of the more special things that creative people like myself and all the people that I interviewed that we provide. And getting back to this idea about value and the value that we provide to clients, I think it was really interesting how talking to several people, how we all know that money is one clear source of our value. We are an investment to the people that we help, and I think that is one of the things that we all generally know. But one of the things I heard a lot are the other values, more of the qualitative values that that we have, that we provide to people. The idea, for instance, whenever Jeremy Slagle designs a packaging for somebody, that feeling that somebody gets whenever they pick up that packaging, that's qualitative, and that is a huge difference for a company. It might not necessarily be the reason that they sell a bunch more products, but it's definitely something that helps play a role in the feelings that are created with somebody's customers. And lastly, I just want to mention that how important I think it is to get out there and have these conversations with other people. And I think that that's one of the things that I have always been pretty consistent at, is meeting with other people and not having any specific kind of agenda. It's really just to meet somebody else and see what kind of ideas that come out of it. Maybe they have a little solution to something that you are trying to find, and maybe it's the other way around. I think that there's such an incredible importance on just meeting other people, and not just people that are a higher up level than you are, or people that are just the lower level. It should be a mix of everybody. So one of the things that I do is I teach. And I can't even tell you how many times having conversation with somebody, teaching them how to use After Effects and make animations, how many times that they've taught me something. And not necessarily just the tool. This certainly happens sometimes, but it always happens where maybe they tell a story a certain way, and I'm like, wow, that's really incredible that they just taught me something. And that same thing basically happens whenever you get out there and you meet with other people. What I try to do is meet with somebody once a week, once every couple of weeks. Again, it could be weird sometimes whenever you meet with somebody that doesn't normally meet people, because they think that you're trying to sell them something. And for me, it's really about maybe you can help them, but maybe it's not what you do for a living. And I think that there's value to that as well, for both you and the other person to go out and do those things. So, as I mentioned, I'm going to try to change things up a little bit over the next few episodes. We'll see how it goes. I want to keep them a little bit shorter, and talk about more specific kind of things. So hopefully you liked this episode, and hopefully you liked the last 9. Again, if you haven't watched them, take a look, let me know what you think, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks.